Welcome to High Magic Practices. Today, our subject is the middle pillar, a ritual most of us encounter early in our ceremonial work and carry forward for years, sometimes decades, without ever examining the full architecture beneath it. That changes today. This episode is not a tutorial. We assume we are already working this practice in some form. What we are doing today is going deeper into the historical record, into the technical specifications that distinguish one version of this practice from another, into the comparative analysis that shows us what the Golden Dawn successors, the Aurum, Solis, and the Thelemic current each understood differently. And finally, into the question of when this foundational practice quietly becomes a ceiling rather than a floor. Let us begin. Before we examine the technical variations, we need to clear up something most practitioners get wrong about where the middle pillar actually comes from. It does not originate with the Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn of the 1890s. It was developed within the Stella Matutina, the successor order led by Robert Felkin after the Golden Dawn Schism. Regardie himself acknowledged this in his later writings. He stated, and this is his own phrasing, "It seems to be, as far as I can discover, a specific development of the Stella Matutina, in which case Robert Felkin was its originator." That is, Regardie, in his own published work, attributing the ritual to Felkin's order than to the original Golden Dawn. If our practice traces through the standard Regardie lineage, we're working Stella Matutina material, not the 1888 Isis Urania curriculum. This matters because it explains the ritual's character. The middle pillar has a later, more systematized quality than older Golden Dawn material. It is a deliberate energy body technology, developed after the original order had fragmented, layered onto the foundational rituals by practitioners who were already working with early 20th century psychological and yogic frameworks, filtering into Western esoteric circles. Regardie completed the manuscript of his book in February 1936 while still living in London. By the time it was published in 1938, his thinking had already moved beyond what he had written. In his original foreword, dated January 31st, 1938, in New York City, he wrote, "For me, the middle pillar marks a certain stage of psychological development. I prefer not to tamper with temporal markings and inner milestones." That is a striking statement. He is openly acknowledging that the book represents one developmental moment, that he could revise it to reflect his more mature thinking, and that he is choosing not to do so. The 1938 text is deliberately preserved as a record of where he was, not where he had arrived. By the introduction to the second edition in 1970, Regardie had become more direct about the synthesis the book represents. He described the work as an attempt to simplify and combine the practices both of the Golden Dawn with the insights and later developments of Aleister Crowley. That admission reshapes how we read the first edition. The middle pillar was never a pure Golden Dawn transmission, it was Regardie's synthetic document from the beginning. The third edition, the version most practitioners encounter today, more than doubled the size of the book. Substantial new material was added by its later editors, including color correspondences, expanded commentary on energy circulation, Egyptian, Greek, Gaelic, and shamanic variations of the rite, and additional instruction on healing applications and talisman charging. Hebrew spellings were standardized from the Ashkenazi pronunciation used in older Golden Dawn documents to the Sephardic pronunciation that has since become the Western ceremonial standard. Each of these changes carries technical weight. The sparse original, working with white light only and a minimal framework, produces a different energetic signature than the full queen-scale color work of later editions. The vibratory resonance of Ashkenazi versus Sephardic pronunciation falls differently in the subtle body. When we work the middle pillar, we need to know which version we are actually working, because the operational parameters vary across editions, and those variations are not cosmetic. The Aurum Solis presents what may be the most technically sophisticated Western alternative to the Regardie middle pillar, and it is consistently under-examined in Golden Dawn circles. Their central column practice, documented in Melita Denning's Clois Rei Primae, the key of the first things, includes a section called the Rousing of the Citadels. The differences from Regardie are substantial. The first and most immediately significant difference is that the Aurum Solis works with 6 centers rather than 5. The missing center from the Regardie practice, at least by Ogdoadic reckoning, is the Unkea Kelly, the inch of heaven, positioned at the brow, corresponding to the third eye. The Ogdoadic tradition's published commentary is direct in its critique. Omitting the brow center produces an incomplete architecture. Anyone who has worked sustained meditation through Eastern systems and then returned to the standard Regardie middle pillar will likely have felt this absence, even without being able to name it. The 6 centers in descending order are the Corona Flammae, the crown of flame above the head, the Unkea Kili at the brow, the Phlos Abysmi, the flower of the abyss at the throat, corresponding to Darth, the Orbis Solis, the orb of the sun, at the heart, corresponding to Tiferet, the Cornua Lunae, the horns of the moon at the genitals, corresponding to Yesod, and the Institutus Splendens, the shining hem between the insteps of the feet, corresponding to Malhut. The second difference is nomenclature. The Aurum Solis offers Greek divine names alongside the standard Hebrew and Topan, the all-in-one, at the crown, Turana at the brow, Distaphiton at the throat, Anophis at the heart, Ero at the genital center, and Bathmenenekastu at the feet. This is not mere linguistic preference. It connects the practice to a different current, the Greco-Hermetic lineage rather than a Hebrew Kabbalistic one. The two traditions work the same subtle anatomy but encoded through different theological vocabularies, and those vocabularies carry different historical and magical weight. The third difference is the most structurally interesting. After establishing the centers, the Clars Rei Primi introduces what it calls the caduceus circulation. 2 spiraling currents, 1 white spiraling widdershins, 1 red-white spiraling diocil, rising from the feet and wrapping around the central column before dissolving at the throat center. The primary source text explicitly acknowledges that these currents are informed by the Eastern chakra system, drawing parallels to the Ida and Pingala Nadi of yogic subtle anatomy. The white current corresponds to Ida, the lunar, cooling, feminine channel. The red current corresponds to Pingala, the solar, warming, masculine channel. Balancing these two opens the central channel, the Sushumna, for upward flow. The Aurum Solis is showing us something the standard middle pillar obscures. The central column is not only a vertical channel for descending light, it is also the axis around which polarized solar and lunar currents spiral, and that spiral circulation is part of the full technical picture. Now let us address the Thelemic variants carefully, because this is an area where misinformation circulates widely, and senior practitioners deserve accuracy. The first thing to establish is a historical fact. Crowley never published a 5-sephira middle pillar substitution chart under his own name. There is no Crowley document that presents a neat one-to-one swap of Hebrew divine names for Thelemic god forms at Kita, Da'ath, Tiferet, Yesod, and Malhut. If we find such a chart online attributed to Crowley, it is a derivative, not a primary source. The middle pillar was not standard Golden Dawn practice during Crowley's active membership, so it was not material he systematized. What Crowley did publish are 2 primary Argentum Astrum Class D texts that constitute the actual Thelemic framework for central column work. The first is Book 5, or Liber Quinquevel Reguli, the ritual of the Mark of the Beast, first published in 1929 in Magick in Theory and Practice, which is Book 4, Part 3, the Lecrum Press Paris edition. Reguli is structurally a Thelemic extension of the supreme invoking ritual of the pentagram, not a middle pillar analog. But it opens with what Crowley called the 11-fold seal, whose vertical component maps god forms onto the central axis of the body in a way many Thelemites work as a standalone central columned meditation. The vertical component of the 11-fold seal places 3 god forms. Nuad is invoked by tracing a circle around the head, corresponding to the Sahasrara chakra, the crown, at the level of the negative veils above Keta. Hatit is placed at the Muladhara chakra, the base of the spine, the perineum corresponding to Malhut on the tree. Rahu is invoked at the center of the breast, the Anahata chakra, corresponding to Tiferet. The horizontal component adds 3 more. Awaz, spelled with a Z in Reguli, is invoked across the forehead, mouth, and larynx, spanning the Agnya and Vishuddha chakras. Larian is invoked at the breast and solar plexus. Babylon is invoked at the lower abdomen and base, spanning the Svadhisthana and Muladhara. These 6 god forms, together with 5 words of power, Lashtau, Thelema, Ya'o, Agape, and Aurum, constitute the 11 invocations of the 11-fold seal. That is the actual structure of the primary text. Note that Hadit in Regardie sits at the very bottom of the column, at Malhut, not at Da'at. The second primary text is Liber HHH, sub figura 341, also Argentum Astrum Class D. Its third section, Meditation SSS, is the official Practicus 3=8 grade Kundalini meditation in the Argentum Astrum system, required for advancement beyond that grade per Liber 185, or Kentumokto Ginta Queen Que. Liber HHH, section SSS, places Hadit at the base of the spine and Nuit at the crown, and works the awakening of Kundalini through sustained concentration on the spine and brain. This is Crowley's most explicit primary text on central column subtle body work, and it confirms the Regardie attribution, Hadit below, Nuit above. Both Regardie and Liber HHH are available in their primary forms. Now, building on these primary texts, James Wasserman and Tahuti Lodge of the Ordo Templi Orientis published what became the most widely referenced Thelemic Middle Pillar adaptation. Wasserman's essay, The Middle Pillar as a Group Working, appeared in Regardie's Healing Energy, Prayer and Relaxation in 1989. The essay states explicitly that its divine name substitutions were arrived at through a study of Book 5. That is the published primary Ordo Templi Orientis lineage source for this adaptation, and we should cite it as such. The Tahuti Lodge attribution maps the god forms onto the 5 Sephira middle pillar structure as follows. At Keter Nuit, at Da'at Aiwas, spelled here with double S following the Liber all spelling, rather than the Regardie Z. At Tiferet, Rahu It, at Yesod, Hadit, at Malhut, the conjoined Babylon the Rion, vibrated together as a linked name. This is a deliberate reorganization of Regardie's structure. The Tahuti Lodge lifted Hadit from the base, where Crowley placed him in both Regardie and Liber HHH, and moved him to Yesod, because a 5 Sephira middle pillar frame requires a god form at the genital center. Awas is placed at Dath because Awas is the messenger, the intelligence behind Liber Al, the voice from beyond the abyss. Babylon and the Therion are conjoined at Malhut, because Regardie pairs them as the earthly emissaries of the Aeon of Horus. The Tahuti Lodge version is legitimate, published Thelemic practice, but it is a derivative, built by practitioners working from Regardie, not a Crowley primary text. Those are different things, and we should know which we're working and why. Let us get technical about vibration, because this is where we observe the most consistent errors, even among experienced practitioners. The first error is confusing vibration with volume. Vibration is not about how loudly we pronounce a name. Regardie was precise on this point when vibrating a word forcibly, though not necessarily loudly. A tingling sense should be felt in every cell and nerve of the body, and in the hands and feet every atom and cell has become alive and is in a state of rapid vibration. His diagnostic test for correct vibration is that the name should detonate in the palms of the hands and the soles of the feet. If we are not feeling that detonation in the palms of the soles, the vibration has not landed yet. The traditional 4-step procedure builds toward that result. We inhale the divine name into the lungs. We visualize white light descending from Keter to consecrate it at the moment of retention. we silently vibrate the name down through the entire length of our middle pillar to the feet. We bring it back up to the lungs. Then, and only then, we produce the audible vibration, releasing the name outward into the column of light. Most practitioners collapse this sequence into step 5 alone, and then wonder why the practice feels mechanical. The second error is working at the wrong pitch. Regardie's specifications are clear: a moderately deep pitch, slightly higher than the ordinary speaking voice, vibrated evenly across all syllables, with no syllable emphasized at the expense of another. The internal vibratory formula works at a higher, more chant-like pitch. The external formula uses a lower pitch for outward projection. Using the same monotone pitch for everything flattens the energetic signature of the work. The third error is mechanical recitation without absorption. Each divine name should strike its target center. There is a moment of stillness after each vibration in which we feel the name land in that sphere, before moving to the next. Working through the names as if reciting a list produces neither genuine resonance nor genuine energy architecture. The fourth error is skipping the breath work. The fourfold breath, equal counts for inhalation, retention, exhalation, and suspension, is not optional preliminary preparation. It is the rhythmic substrate the entire practice runs on. Without it, we are trying to pump water through a kinked hose. The fifth error is failing to adapt to pronunciation standards. The Sephardic pronunciation, now standard in most Western ceremonial work, places stress on different syllables than the Ashkenazi pronunciation used in older Golden Dawn documents. Practitioners trained from pre-1990s texts and then switched to modern editions need to consciously update their vibratory patterns, because the emphasis patterns carry different resonance, and that resonance matters. Now the comparison every middle pillar practitioner eventually confronts. How does this work relate to Kundalini and the chakra system? The standard framing presents a clean binary. The middle pillar is the Western chakra system. We descend light from above while the East ascends the serpent from below. That framing is useful as a first orientation. As a final analysis, it is wrong, and practitioners working at intermediate and advanced levels need the more accurate picture. The dominant Shakta Tantric account, transmitted to the Western world primarily through Sir John Woodruff's 1918 translation work, published as The Serpent Power, describes Kundalini Shakti as a coiled force dormant at the Muladhara, the root center at the base of the spine. Through pranayama, bandhas, mantras, and asana, the yogi awakens that force and guides it upward through Sushumna, the central nadi of the subtle spine, past each of the 6 lower chakras, Vadhisthana, Manipura, Anahata, Vishuddha, Agnya, until it reaches and unites with Shiva at the Sahasrara crown. The Hatha Yoga Pradipika and Goraksha Samhita describe 72,000 nadis, subtle channels of prana in the body. Of these, 3 are primary. Ada lies to the left of the spine, Luna, cooling, feminine, corresponding to the parasympathetic nervous system. Pingala lies to the right, Solar, warming, masculine, corresponding to the sympathetic nervous system. Sushumna runs through the center, from Muladhara to Sahasrara, carrying the central stream of consciousness. The word Hatha encodes the entire system, Ha meaning sun, Tha meaning moon. The discipline is the disciplined balancing of Pingala and Ida until Sushumna opens. That is the textbook version. It is accurate as far as it goes, but the textbook is not the whole picture. The Satkakra Nirupana, the primary tantric text Woodruff translated, does not present the kakras as a simple one-way ascent. It describes them as emanations of consciousness from Brahman, a divine force that radiates downward into successive condensations until it rests in the Muladhara. The serpent's ascent is the return journey of energy that first descended. Even within the primary eastern source, the system contains both a descending emanation and an ascending return. The dynamic is not linear in one direction. It is a circuit. Krishnamacharya, often called the father of modern yoga, taught something even more striking, that Kundalini is not an ascending energy but a blockage, and that the practitioner's work is to use sustained pranayama to draw prana and agni together at the base of the spine, gradually dissolving the obstacles so that prana can rise through sushumna freely. That reframing originates inside the Indian tradition itself. The Eastern ascent versus Western descent binary dissolves the moment we look past the most popular version of the Eastern system. Now consider where the Western tradition sits within this more complex picture. The middle pillar uses a descending movement. Light enters Keta above the crown and is drawn down through Darth, Tiferet, Yesod, and Malhut at the feet. That movement follows the lightning flash, the path of the flaming sword, the order in which the Sephirot emanated from Ein Sof in the Kabbalistic creation account. It corresponds to the descent through the four worlds, Atziluth, Bria, Yetzirah, Asaya, each more condensed than the last. But the broader Kabbalistic system does not stop there. The serpent winds up the tree from Malhut to Keta through the 22 paths. Jacob's ladder is the reversal of the lightning flash. The Hermetic maxim that Keta is in Malhut and Malhut is in Keta is not metaphorical ornament. It is the technical statement that the polarity is dynamic, not fixed. The middle pillar works one direction of a two-direction system. A complete ceremonial practice works both. There is also a historical dimension practitioners often miss. The Western mystery tradition has its own pre-existing energy center work that does not derive from Eastern borrowing. Johann Georg Keitel, a pupil of Jacob Boehme, published Theosophia Practica in 1696 with detailed diagrams of 7 centers in the human body, mapped to the 7 classical planets, more than 2 centuries before Woodroffe published The Serpent Power. The Aurum Solis Caduceus circulation, with its spiraling solar and lunar currents, draws explicitly on Ida and Pingala parallels, but is built on a Western Hermetic framework that had been developing independently for generations. The Persian Sufi mystic Aladoleh Semnani, writing in the 14th century, described 7 subtle centers in the human body called the Lata'if, 700 years before any of our modern systems were formalized. What this means is that when the Stella Matutina developed the middle pillar in the early 1920s in direct chronological overlap with the publication of Woodrove's Serpent Power in 1918 and Leadbeater's The Chakras in 1927, it was not building from nothing. It was synthesizing a newly accessible Eastern theoretical framework with a Western subtle body tradition that had been developing since at least the 17th century. The synthesis was real, but so was the pre-existing Western lineage underneath it. Then there is the Thelemic case, where the binary collapses entirely. Crowley did not oppose tantric structure. He absorbed it. In the old comment to Liber Al at the 2nd chapter, Crowley wrote, "Had it now identifies himself with the Kundalini, the central magical force in man." That is Crowley, in published primary source material, explicitly equating Hadit with Kundalini. This is not an interpretation offered by later commentators. It is Crowley's own published statement. The structural implications are directly visible in his primary central column texts. In Lever Queen Quiv Whale Rigu Li, Hadit is placed at the Muladhara Chakra, the base of the spine, which is precisely Kundalini's position in Tantric anatomy. In Liber HHH, Meditation SSS, Hadit again occupies the base, Nui the crown, and the explicit aim of the practice is Kundalini awakening. Thelemic framework imported the Kundalini model at the level of primary theological structure, not as an optional Eastern supplement. For advanced practitioners, this means the question is not whether to integrate Eastern and Western frameworks. The integration is already built into the system we are working. The question is whether we understand the structural correspondences well enough to work that integration consciously rather than accidentally. Now to the actual risk, because there is one, and it is not what folk wisdom usually describes. The warning we most often hear, not to mix upward and downward currents, not to blend Eastern and Western systems, is not well grounded in the primary literature. What emerges consistently from Gopi Krishna's account of his 1937 awakening, from the Kundalini syndrome research of Lisa Neller, and from modern studies on spiritual emergency is a clear pattern. Intensive, subtle body practices can become destabilizing when pursued without preparation, without enough time for integration, and without an honest assessment of one's nervous system health. This appears especially true in people who are already vulnerable. Sri Aurobindo's formulation is the most precise. Kundalini itself does not produce psychosis in a healthy person. A constitutionally weak nervous system, already predisposed to emotional problems, can decompensate under the stress of awakening, particularly when proper precautions are not observed. Jung's 1932 Zurich Kundalini seminar made the parallel point from a Western psychological angle. Practitioners who take these practices literally, rather than engaging their symbolic dimension, risk pathology, because the Western psyche has rarely been given the cultural preparation that Eastern initiatory structures traditionally provided. Translated into middle pillar practice, the actual danger is not in which direction the current flows. It is in rushing the preparatory work, skipping the relaxation protocols Regardie kept insisting on across all three editions, ignoring the breath work, pushing for dramatic sensations rather than allowing the system to stabilize, and overriding the body's signals in order to feel something impressive happening. Do the preliminary work completely. Allow sufficient integration time between sessions. Be honest about our nervous system constitution and our current life circumstances. Those are the practical safety protocols the primary sources actually support. Let us close by addressing the question practitioners at our level need to be asking. When does this foundational practice stop being a flaw and start being a ceiling? If the middle pillar has become a comfort ritual rather than a developmental practice, something we run in order to feel balanced, before avoiding more demanding work, that is the first signal. The practice is beautifully stabilizing. But if that stability is being used to remain comfortable rather than to support genuine progression, the tool has been repurposed. If we have been working the practice consistently for months or years without progressive deepening of perceptual acuity, without finer discrimination in energy sensation, without clear refinement of technique, something has stalled. Either our method needs adjustment, or the practice alone is no longer sufficient for where we are. If we're working with only 5 or 6 centers, and the tree of life has become a living system in our awareness rather than a symbolic framework, the basic central column structure can no longer contain what we are developing. We need to begin incorporating the side pillars. Pinna, Hay said, Givera, Hod, Metza. We need to work the 22 paths between the Sefi Rot, not just the spheres themselves. And if we have been building a stable inner temple through this practice, without doing sustained operative work in that temple, the preparation has become its own destination. The middle pillar is a foundation. Pathworking the 32 paths, invoking specific god forms through the hexagram rituals, Abramelin, Labor Same for knowledge and conversation of the holy guardian angel. These are what the foundation supports. At some point, we need to build. For Thelemic practitioners specifically, the progression points to working Regardie, as Crowley wrote it, the full 11-fold seal with the spiral dance and the assertion of the spells, and to working Liber HHH meditation, SSS, as the Argentum Astrum system designed it, not as a casual adjunct to the Regardie practice, but as dedicated grade work requiring patience and consistency. The practitioners who develop genuine mastery in this system share a common pattern. They go back to primary sources. They treat the practice as a laboratory, not a liturgy. They test their technique against Regardie's diagnostic. Does the vibration detonate in the palms and soles? They experiment with variations, not haphazardly, but with enough scholarly grounding to know what they are changing and why, and they progress because they have kept the practice alive as a question rather than settling it as an answer. That is the work. If this episode brought you genuine value, support the work in the most direct ways possible. Leave a like, subscribe, And if you want to see this level of research continue, consider joining us on Patreon. Do the work, keep the questions alive.